Yeah.
So sorry. So you reached that end point then.
Yeah.
Okay, so you shit hippies. Exactly. Shit hippies will be on there. There's a point where we will talk about shit hippies, and I'm
Talking
so excited.
shit hippies.
Shit hippies?
Yep. Shit hippies, dude. There can be shitty people no matter what. There's always going to be shitty people in every category of people, regardless of what there is, including the hippies. The hippies, there's plenty of shit hippies. We've seen them along our lifespans. It'll be a topic. Maybe we'll bring you back as a special guest to talk about shit hippies.
Shit hippies are on par with.
I can't wait to learn more about it.
I said it.
You said what?
Shit hippies are on par with child molesters. I fucking said it.
There it is.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a strong statement.
They're just
I'm
one
not
step
gonna
below
admit that.
Karens. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
At some point, we're going to have to do a video
that
version
teeth
of
hat.
this because the facial expressions that you give Sarah are going to need to be captured on video so that we can
So serious.
properly portray them to people.
It's been so depressing wearing a mask all the time. I constantly flash the people that I work with. It's like,
Okay,
Yeah, I
From a
had no idea
distance.
what you were talking about, and Mike was just like, Mike did it exactly. He's like, "Bah."
other than my boss, like, forgetting she was wearing a dress. Thank God.
Alrighty
For
then.
Spanx. Thank God for Spanx.
Oh.
So I just wanted to briefly highlight, Mike, what you're kind of describing, that boss, that feeling of creepiness, by the way,
Yeah.
that's codependency. So I think that, like, in a work setting where there are no fucking boundaries, aka we own you, we understand that you are a willing slave here, we want to take everything from you. When they, like, prey upon, like, oh, we know this guy has integrity, that, like, getting in your fucking head and manipulating you, that is a codependent relationship that's unhealthy. And I think that's probably characteristic of a toxic work environment, aka fuel for burnout. Like that, that creepy feeling you got was he's violating a boundary right now.
It felt awful, and I knew at that point it was time for a change. So I did a lot of networking, and I found myself accepting a job in New York City for too little money, and again, now it went from the private sector to the municipal side, and again, I was just fueled by passion, fueled by integrity. I want to learn, fueled by, hunger for knowledge. So and also, I think I don't know exactly where this fits, or maybe this is the time to talk about part of that, but at the time and where I find myself currently, it's been intermittent, but like when you're 30 or older, I'm just using that as a placeholder, I suppose. And you're not in a serious relationship, and maybe you're a bit damaged from previous, if you want to call them relationship failures.
We're all smiling.
Or just failed relation.
It's not necessarily a failed relationship. It's a relationship.
Become focused on trying to make, like, all those efforts that would be going into that, or that would be going into children, or that it just fucking, it's a flood, and it's like, this has to mean something.
Consumes you.
That's the loop that I have found myself in, that I'm still in. I'm just a little less freaked out all the time now. So
that's a good thing, though. I mean, you should be consumed by what it is that you do. If you are in that path, you should be willing to accept any open knowledge or information or whatever it is that is coming your way based on what it is that you work on. You should be open to that. You should be able to consume also. Like, I watch random ass boat videos because of shit that I do. So you see these ship launches, or like random, like, they have a whole show on fucking I think on Discovery where they like break down ships and do all that. I love that. I love to see like my work break down and like see it like come together and learn more about what I do. I imagine there's a shit ton of like Discovery shows other than like awful Treehouse Master out there fucking shit up. There has to be something like similar as an arborist that you would love and like taking in that knowledge. But I think, like you said, there's a point where it's no longer for them. It's for you. You know what I mean? It's a personal thing where it's like, I'm not gonna kill myself for this. It's because of the job. It's like I'm gonna learn this piece because I want to learn this piece.
Well, but the thing is too is that like it should give back to you, right? So like if you're passionate about something and you put everything you have in it, you should feel it reciprocated. Like that passion should sustain you. That passion should, keep you going. But if you're in an environment, in a setting where it's, we want 70 hours a week for pennies and fuck you because fuck you, then it's like
needs that aren't being met.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's also that's a common the case though as well. I mean, companies are willing to exploit that shit.
Yeah.
That's a
but given. I think that's I think that's a real. I think this is a bit, not even a bit. This is a lot less entertaining than when you and I were talking about it, because I don't know.
This is perfect. This is that you gave. Yes, what I did. You gave the condensed version because we will.
Listen, I don't know what wasn't entertaining about you sitting in the back of the ambulance, like, let's go.
I mean, that was fucking intense. That was a real intense moment in my life. That was a lot. But what I've realized that this whole thank you. I realized that I feel like, and I don't know how, Lexi, you might have to help me with this. I think it identifies something with me. Like I don't have a completely fulfilled life, so I'm overcompensating, I think. And that's been rough because I'm trying to build the balance, like a work-life balance. But man, it's so easy to slide into that. Just work harder. You know what I mean? Focus on that. That's I don't think that's a great thing.
I'm actually like outside of like being a therapist. I used to write a lot. And for a long time, like you talk about like failed relationships and stuff like that. This is probably sort of relevant. I noticed that like I was having relationships or seeing people who I didn't really care about or didn't really offer much in my life. And, I was just kind of good on my own and I was doing my own thing, and they were like placeholders or people who just kind of filled a spot. And I had this idea when I was writing about it that it was like, it was this idea that like you build a house for your love to live in, right? And I think passion is probably very similar. So like I have all of this love, and I haven't found someone who like I just independently love or care for based on who they are, but like I still have this love. So like let me build a house on somebody else and like make it comfortable to live there. You know what I mean? So like for you, same thing, like with this career and this passion, like I have all of this passion, and what you were talking about like not necessarily having an avenue to put that out into the rest of your life. Like you're just building, okay, I have this house already where my love and passion can live. So let me just fucking shove it all in there. And the idea too is also that like you want to be able to spread yourself out a little more, which is what you noticed and what you found, right? Like you can't put it all in one spot. You have to spread it out. Like, that old expression, like you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You put all your eggs in one basket and you suffer the consequences of it, right? Because like if things are going shitty at work, your whole life is going shitty because that's where all your eggs are. You know what I mean? But if you have times friends, you can put your eggs in other baskets, and it's like if things are going shitty here, well, I can count on this thing over here to build me up.
Relating to Mike's perspective, it's also hard to like, lost my train of thought.
Eggs in one basket, house for love to live in.
I think that's where you fucked me up, was the eggs in the basket. I started thinking about fucking scrambled eggs and eggs Benedict.
Seriously.
I wanted eggs Benedict so bad today.
I like that because what you're saying is you can't. So it's a loyalty, a commitment thing. Whereas if you commit 100% to whatever it is, like your career should have a commitment. But even like I'm lucky. I've had a few good bosses where I'm at now in San Diego, and they've been like, listen, we understand you're a father, you got 3 kids. Like life gets in the way. That's the phrase that I always
know
say.
What I was gonna say.
So you have to expect it. But you have to roll with the punches. You have to do it, but you also have to be spread out. So it's not just you can't have one direction, because when the one direction, like Alexia was saying, when the one direction is shitty, then just like everything else is downfall. It's all in that one area, so it's like shit. Well, there's no positives here because they are all in this one area, and this is one negative.
And what Mike said, he got that euphoria when he was like really like, fuck yeah, I'm working 70 hours, I'm crushing this shit. So same thing too. It's almost like being bipolar. If you have all your eggs in one basket and you're fucking killing that basket, you're getting that euphoria, you're getting that high, and it's almost like you keep chasing that.
It was that's a bizarre thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to rationalize, though. Like, it's hard not to say, like, well, I don't have anything better to do. Like, if I'm going to just be sitting at home by myself, like, why don't I make money instead? Or
why am I going to sit here and do a fucking puzzle? Like, fuck puzzles, man. I got to make money on my passion.
My plants can wait to be watered.
And this is something I know that
hot take,
this is something that hit me.
Plants.
So this always kept in my head. There was always this sort of there was this insecurity of getting into a career or a area of focus, and I always kind of felt like shit. I mean, if I'm looking at what would be the traditional route of this, I'm literally 10 years behind it. So I need to jump in. So I surrounded myself with the people that I really looked up to and that I thought of as heroes. I joined boards and I really fucking just dove the fuck in. And so I'm around these peers or these people that I'm starting to see as peers, and there was always this hunger to just get caught up. Right. And I think that I actually have succeeded in that to a point, as far as
caught up to what?
To the expectations that I set for myself, the unrealistic expectations that I set for myself.
See,
we call those unfair comparisons in therapy.
Unfair comparisons? No, I get that. I have, is a field that I have in my career, I have a lot of old dudes. There's a lot of old dudes that are in their like 60s and 70s that are getting ready to retire, that have been doing shipbuilding for the last, since they got a fucking high school. They fucking waddled out of high school and straight into a shipyard, you know what I mean? And they've been doing this shit for the last 60 years. And there's so much shit that these guys know just because they've been doing it for the last fucking 60 years. There's no way that I know as much as like some of these dudes that are out there. They're just like, oh yeah, this is messed up because, the starboard side's not symmetrical, blah, blah, blah. Like, they just rattle it out and they know it. And there's just no way that I can know some of this stuff. And I guess that's where I met myself. I reached a point, like when I was in Florida. I got too much put onto me at that point, and I broke down. I was like, listen, I only have 10 years experience. I can't carry this. I don't know these things. Like, this is where the other people that are supposed to feed their pieces in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was my breaking point, was in Florida, and it happened at that point, and then I was able to carry it forward here. Yeah, I've been pretty lucky in San Diego, where it's more broken down. It's more systematic, where the people that weren't there when I was going through my break are here now. So when I need that information, I have somebody to go to, and it says the system knows it. There's such being a bigger system, being a bigger, like you talked about, going from like private to municipal. Private's very like, it's that company, and it's like they have we're driving for money. We're cranking out money. That's our mainstay. And if we burn through people, we burn through people.
They create a fake culture that you adhere to, or else you don't. And if you don't, that's fine, because there's an army of people behind you that are going to be just as desperate as you were when you first joined.
And I think that's every career or every job opening, is it not, Lexi, Sarah?
Yeah,
I'm learning that's even my job now.
It's interesting because before we got on here, I was looking up what is burnout and that kind of thing, and I found an article on Forbes, and I found an article from the Mayo Clinic, and they were describing the symptoms of burnout. And so symptoms of burnout are decreased motivation, irritability, feeling like less passionate about your job, loss of interest, blah, 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 blah. And what's very interesting is all of those things are criteria for a major depressive disorder.
Dude, I was thinking.
Literally, like, exactly the criteria. You know what I mean? Like, and it also described sleep disruption or sleeping excessively, not sleeping enough, like Mike had said earlier. Fucking textbook DSM-5 criteria on the dot list for major depressive disorder.
DSM-5. So when it finally hit me was about 2 years ago. So that's 6-7 years out of college. So that's like, for me, going back to, like I said, going back to school late.
Right.
So that's 2000, what?
6 years ago?
No, so like 2017, 18, somewhere in there. So that's 6-7 years after graduating. No, sorry, hold on. Can we get my fucking math right?
Anxiety fucked your short-term memory.
6 years after graduating college, but 5 years in the tail end of also digging in hard. So it's like 10 years, 12 years of just fucking nonsense.
Right.
I found myself, the thing that I was pushing for the most, I found myself in a pretty depressive state about 2 years ago. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm not pushing as hard as I'm here. I'm doing it. This is I got back to, this is the fucking spot I wanted to be. This is it. And yeah, I started to feel that kind of like complacency, that irritability, the sleeplessness. It all fucking hit me, and I started to see and not a therapist, but an analyst, as like a the step before. She kind of helped me kind of find my way to a certain point. But it was just I felt like for the first time in my life that I was like, wow, I might actually accept someone talking to me about medication. Because it was just like, I feel bummed out all the fucking time.
Yeah,
I think everybody should be
the last
open
one
to
in the
those
parking
things.
lot every night. I'm usually there earlier than everyone or than most people. I'm giving way too much of a fuck about what's going on here. Unbalanced lifestyle.
I think that's the true thing where it comes in. There has to be a balance. You do want to be passionate about your career. You want to have the most knowledge. And the only way to have the most knowledge is to seek that. I mean, I guess outside of your normal work hours, like there has to be things that you research, and it has to be something that you're passionate about to see those things. But
you have to care.
Yeah, you have to care about you have to like what you're doing. You have to care about what you're doing. But there's also, like I said, there's that prey mentality where they know it. It's like a vulnerability almost, and if you don't safeguard yourself, they will scoop in on it and they'd be like, oh yeah, we want to do these same things as you, and then lead you up, and it builds you up. And
so I had a hard time because my last job, I was an expert. I knew everything. I was the one that everybody went to. I knew everything about everything, and I was always like, I knew everything. I was very confident in my knowledge and my abilities. And then, I left my job, I go to school, and I come into a completely different field, looking at things completely differently, don't know anything. Right. And now I'm like, oh, I don't know shit. It's hard to like find comfort when it's complete, like you go from being at the top to the bottom, and it's learning to be okay with that. And like I find myself going into like the same, like, I need to know everything. I need to be the best at everything. I need to hurry up and do this, and like hurry up and learn this, and like be the best at this, and people need to be able to ask me questions, and
it's a tough mentality to break. It honestly is.
It's stupid.
It's learning to be okay with accepting that you don't know everything.
I pull the lever and I get food.
Yeah, basically.
I think it's that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. It's that pressure you put on yourself, right? And I think the idea, like what you said, Mike, and what you said, Sarah, about like going, like having a job, going back to school, starting over a little bit later, like that. I think, when you're already burnt out and you're having to start over and go back to school and then start at the bottom, like
we went through the same shit.
You're fucking primed for burnout. So,
Right.
like
Right.
that part's tough.
It'll get you. It will get you.
It'll get you.
It's our.
There's a bright side though too. There's like the grind also is. There are fruits of that.
I mean, what do you feel that you've out of the grind? What is the one thing that you took out of it that is the most helpful to you in today? Well, so when you go into the office on Monday, what's the most helpful thing out of the grind that you got? Well, this goes for all of you. We'll go around here. I'll start with Mr. Miko since he's the guest.
That's a great fucking question. So what? Okay.
So out of the grind, think of all the things that you did during the grind. It doesn't have to be like some major life lesson, but there's something along the way that you learned in the grind that was like there's a switch. The switch turns on. And it's like, oh, whether it makes something easier or maybe it makes something that you understand. You understand it in a better way, and it's something that was like, okay, this is a helpful thing.
I realized I could push myself harder than I thought, and that if something's worth it, I will.
Right. Go ahead, Sarah. You got something?
I learned. Mine's kind of similar. I kind of learned that it was about me, like that it's about me being the best at what I do, and it's not for other people because other people are trash. And
wow.
Hot takes.
I don't want to be the best because I want to prove something to my boss. Like, it's about me wanting to be the best at what I do.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Fuck the haters.
Yeah.
You got anything lined up, Lex?
I don't know how much time we have left, but I'm thinking about a story from the other day. So I actually had to call. I had to call Sarah about this because I was
wondering if you were going to bring this up.
Yeah,
we're in close intent.
So I had a client attempt suicide. It was a pretty significant attempt, and while they were hospitalized, I was in contact with some of the staff and notified that essentially they blamed it on me. They blamed it on me for a couple different reasons.
The patient did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the staff, not the staff, but the patient blamed it on me. And, as much as, and I'm like feeling myself choke up as I talk about this, so I'm going to fucking suck it up like a big kid, but,
you must not.
Yep. I gotta suck it up. But it was one of those moments where I mentioned like boundaries when Mike was talking earlier about how like in a toxic environment or in a shitty environment, like it crosses a boundary.
Right.
And for me, it crossed a huge fucking boundary because I have an enormous guilt complex. And as much as I was able to rationalize and say like, here's A through Z reasons why that was not my fault, it fucking hit something, and I was destroyed, like just fucking, like I lost it. Like I was like sobbing. I had to call Brendan and talk to Brendan. I had to call Sarah and talk to Sarah. And I had to like step away from my computer and like all this stuff because I just could not fucking take it. And it's like, we're on a podcast at 10 o'clock on a Friday night in, obviously Eastern Standard Time. But, I'm talking about mental health because I love it. I fucking love it. And, at the same time, it has the capacity to utterly take me to a place where I am not okay. And, like when I think about burnout, like if stuff like that happened more often, like I wouldn't be able to do this job. I've been at this specific location for about 6 or 7 months now, and that's the first time that's happened.
Okay.
But it wasn't okay. Like it crossed a boundary. It got real personal, which like in therapy, obviously things have a tendency to get a little bit more personal anyway.
Right.
But it's our job to be objective. It's our job to be like a soundboard. Like as much as I'm hearing your entire life story and all your most personal things, I am like a mirror, like a positive, happy little mirror, just shooting shit back out at you to be helpful. Right. And it broke that mirror. You know what I mean? Like it came through and it hit me. And like, it was just not okay. I'm honestly, I forgot the original question because I'm a little fucked up about it, talking about it.
No, that's.
I wonder.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know why, but when you were talking, it like made me think that like people often compare passion to like a fire in your chest, and all I can think is like, well, fire fucking burns.
It fucking burns.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's the end point at some point. It's regardless. There is an expiration date. You know what I mean? So you have a set time that you want to try and be the best of what, like you say, you want to be the best for you, and it is what you do, knowing that you have that time frame.
So what's your takeaway, Andy?
Mine? I don't know. Like I feel like my industry builds these kids up and brings them in because they know a tool. You can teach a monkey a tool. The tool is easy. What you can't teach them is the idea behind why they're using the tool and the other things. And those are the things that I've reflected on. I mean, more so in the last 3 years as I've been coming up and getting more experienced people ahead of me trying to explain it and show me the way is, okay, you did these things because that's how you're taught in this industry. Like there's certain ways.
But this is the why?
Right, and this is so now I see the reasoning why behind it, and then I look back and I see some of the people like I work with, and I see some of the older dudes, and I see some of the shit they do, and I know why they do it, and then I see the new kids come in, and I see them make the same mistakes that everybody makes because the logic train is there, and so I see it on a systematic breakdown almost, because it's what I do is not ever changing unless we make some magical way that we can weld metal on metal different. If so, your dad would let me know ahead of time, and otherwise we're not on that. So,
channeling
you know what I mean?
the sun.
Right. The only thing that's changed is how we do it with the computers. Like I have dudes that I work with that are like I do shipbuilding. These dudes have talked about how they used to go out to the yard. They'd have this fucking sheet of paper that was like 20 foot wide by like 60 foot long, and they would sit down with these huge ass like wooden stencils and like carve out like the plates on the hull of a shell, like the outside of a boat, and all the curvature and all the other shit, and they would carve it out basically, and then use that to figure it out to fucking shape metal to make a boat the way that it is. And now I do that with like 3 clicks here from the exact same computer we're doing this from. I do that in a couple of clicks.
And they probably have perfect handwriting.
Oh, dude, it's my dad's right there too. Architects and their handwriting is fucking. It's block.
The block writing.
Like goddamn printer. It looks like it's coming out of a printer, just fucking printing out, and it's like, all right.
Show off.
Exactly. But it was a culmination though of all of those years of experience, and you had to know that. Whereas now it's like, now you don't need to know that stuff because all of it's built into the computer.
I think that also kind of leads to the burnout though. Like, I think it's, people see that you can do more and you can do it faster and you can do it more efficiently, so you can do more. Right. And then they just don't know where to stop.
They skip all the subtleties of it, right? So what Andy's talking about, these 60-year-old guys that used to like lay the paper out and everything like that, and they know, like, they're able to tell him like, well, here's because the starboard side isn't symmetrical or whatever you said, you know what I mean? Right. Like, you don't get that from a textbook. You don't get that from being some eager 25-year-old. And that, the value in that, I know this sounds like an old person thing to say, but you just can't teach these kids that stuff. You know what I mean?
It's experience, and experience is hard. It's hard to derive though at the time. Like in any given moment in that early career, it's hard to differentiate of, here is a learning experience. Here's somebody giving me a hard time or giving me a problem because they want me to grow as a person and as a colleague.
Challenging you.
Exactly. And it's the difference between, here's this asshole that's fucking giving me work because we got to meet these deadlines and I'm going to make money for them, so I need to do all this work. And he's going to code it in a way it's so such that he seems like he's dependent on me. It's going to boost that pride. It's going to boost those other things, and I'm not really going to get as much out of it as I should get out of it. And I think that's the hard difference. I don't know. Did that make sense?
It seems almost like more and more things are seeming more and more like a pyramid scheme.
Man, there's a lot of it in there, and I get it. The work has to get done. Shit has to get done no matter what it is. There's dirty work in every job, and shit has to get done. I think you should assume that 25 to maybe 45% of what you do in a daily day is just dirty work. Like, shit's got to get done, right? Just the way it is.
I think that's fair.
It's just the way, I mean, when you go in and, like, you do audits. Like, audits just have to be done. It's the dirty work of doing shit. Shit just has to be done. When I go in, I do drawings. Drawings just have to be done. Normally, I would rather not do that shit. I'd rather fuck around and model and see shit in 3D and fuck around. But instead, I got to do these drawings, and it is what it is. My paycheck comes, and at the end of the day, I have to pay it. But there should be, again, I believe Lexi and Mike brought up the same thing. They said there's a balance. There's a balance between those two where you have to, I accept that half of it is bullshit, and I have the other half is moving me forward as a person, as a career-oriented person, and for future endeavors.
I think
what's interesting is that like this was supposed to be about like burnout, and it ended up being so much about like passion and loving your job and like why it fucking sucks to get shit on when you love it.
But I think that's the grind, though. The grind is you get that to that point of where I think it forces you into where you want to be, because you may be in the
trudge
right
through the trenches.
Right. There's a wide area. Like we're talking like okay, so we're talking. Let's look at baseball. Okay, so baseball is you got first base line and third base line.
There's
so
no
you're in
crying.
The cone. You see, you got this cone. Oh, there's tons of crying. This is the way it goes. But you got a cone of where it is that you want to go. You know what I mean? You want to hit wherever your career is somewhere
I'm hitting
in
fouls.
that cone. Exactly. And if you hit a foul, then you're like, fuck, this is not where I want to be. Okay. Rearrange it. You still get another at-bat. Okay, where are we going? And like eventually you're going to nail it onto where you want to be. I think that's the end goal is where are you happy, comfortable, and with what you're doing. Am I wrong? I mean, we'll go around.
I don't think you're wrong. I got a really great word of advice from a scientist named David Nowak. I think you all should know him, but there's no reason you should know him. He's in urban studies, urban ecology, urban forestry, and how that intersection of people.
Wait, let me get my notepad out. What's his name?
David Nowak.
David,
how do you spell it?
Nowak. And he yeah, I didn't realize who he was in this industry. I got a informational interview with him while I was a junior at ESF. He just happened to not be on he was going to like Peru the next day to help build a urban forestry master plan. I didn't realize who I was talking to in this industry as a student. And I had like 10 questions ready to go. And I asked one or two questions. He answered all of them. One of the main things was, do you like politics? And I said, I don't know. He goes, well, get ready, because if you want to get into this field, this is what you're actually getting into.
Right. And
I didn't really realize that until about, 3 years, like 3 years ago, even after a year and a half after I was at the job I'm at now. It took a year and a half for me to realize, I'm in politics. And so it kind of comes down to not exactly be careful what you wish for, but maybe kind of understand what you're wishing for, because it's
this guy dead?
It's fucking interesting, you know.
Is this guy dead, Mike?
No.
Are you sure?
No, David Nowak. It's and sometimes just realizing that it's not butterflies and roses. Right. It's real. And sometimes maybe, Andy, you sitting at your desk and doing the drawings, maybe you had bigger visions in your head of what things were, but maybe sometimes reality is just that. It's just reality.
So maybe burnout is, it's a little bit about disillusionment sometimes, you know what I mean? And so like, one of the, things I hear people talk about a lot that struggle with serious depression is this like perfectionism thing. You know what I mean? So, like, I want everything to be perfect. like not only do I want to be perfect, but I want my world to be perfect. So in my perfect world, I don't have to do these drawings, as Andy calls them, these drawings. And like in my perfect world, I don't want to have to do paperwork as a therapist. And in my perfect world as an arborist, I don't want to have to fucking water these dumbass trees. I want to like be studying where they come from.
And I don't want those trees like that.
I don't want to have to be doing these dumbass audits. I want to be doing these crazy fucking like other numbers for like high rollers or some shit, but managing
you guys
that.
have no idea what I do.
Not really.
I don't either.
But I also think that like when it comes to that day-to-day, moment-to-moment grind of like the bullshit drawings or like the paperwork or like whatever it is, like that shit just doesn't seem as bad when you're in it and it's good. But when you start to burn out, that's when that shit becomes over fucking whelming. And now you're shitty and resentful about it. Like, this fucking paperwork, these bullshit fucking drawings, like
these shit hippies.
Shit. Yeah, these fucking shit hippies.
Fuck them all.
Like that's probably a good indicator of like I'm burning out when like the day-to-day, like you're super disillusioned with like the day-to-day of it, you know what I mean? Like that's probably, if you're like looking for a like am I burnout, like that's probably a good measurement, because if you're not, that shit's gonna be like whatever.
Well, it's tough. I mean, you have the daily day-to-day complaints. Like everybody, there's always going to be there's nothing I think you can do.
People.
Exactly. There's always going to be something. There's going to be some day you come home from work where it's just like fucking bird machine guns, just fucking just flipping off. F all these people. Like I'm done. I'm going to get hammered and I'm gonna fucking tuxedo it, front row Leonard Skinner, doing me, whatever. Just like there's always gonna be that. But I think you have to have the daily complaint because it just is what it is.
Wouldn't it be boring otherwise?
I remember when I was working at Starbucks and Andy, you might resemble Mr. Mark. But like
you had to make
when I first started there, somebody would come in and be like, "Oh, I'd like a like quad grande, like no foam, like latte, 120 degrees," and people would flip the fuck out. Like they would be on the headsets like, "This fucking son of a bitch," and I'd be like, "What? Like that's fucking exciting! Like you get to like figure out how to make that drink." 2 years in, I would get that order and I'd be like, "Fuck this guy!" Like, what a dick, like, and I was like, "Oh, it's time to go. Like, it's time to not work here anymore."
Retail, I think, is something that everybody should work at some point in their life, though. I think Holly and I have had this discussion. You should work retail, no matter it is what you do, because you can understand
people skills.
Just blatant wrong blame, and you get people skill of handling that also, and it's just there's so many positive benefits I think that you get from like waiting tables or doing something like that. It's a humility and a navigation. It's a minor crisis navigation tool, if you will. Bringing that back.
You can't read that in a book.
Exactly, and you can't without experience in it, but those are the minor ones where you can handle it. It's in a smaller situation to be able to build towards something later. Because you can tell the people that, like, in your day-to-day lifetime, like whether you go to a medical office or something else, you can tell the people that have never worked retail, and usually they're fucking dumb.
They're freaking out all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
The lady that... Go ahead.
Sorry, I literally, Sarah, you tell like way better stories from like your years at Dunkin'. I don't know if I'm allowed to say Dunkin', but like I literally had a lady lean over the counter when I was at Starbucks and be like, "Are you fucking stupid?"
Yeah. Dude, the lady that called me ugly.
Yeah.
The lady that called me ugly. The guy that almost came across the counter and beat my ass. Before I worked there, they had people fling shit at the donut case. Walk in with a handful of feces, like monkeys, poo-flinging monkeys. That's what people are.
Wow.
We have not evolved.
Side note, we're doing a night podcast, and it's going to be stories from Duncan.
God.
It's going to be 15 minutes. You can just tell a story from Duncan and your many nights of Duncan.
Just spell it differently when you post it.
Of course.
Oh, you want to talk about creepy, Mike? You want to talk about fucking creepy? I worked overnights as a fucking 18-year-old female by myself, and these guys would come in and they'd be like, "Anybody here? You alone by yourself back there?" All the time. All the time.
And Jack dudes in back ready to
I'm like, the bakers. Yeah, those guys. Those guys are back.
Yeah, all those guys. Hey, guys.
But nobody was there. It was just me, all by myself. 8 hours.
Insane.
Oh my!
I think I think that should be a good one because you can just tell stories, so we can sprinkle those in throughout and just be like,
sprinkle.
What did you call them? What did you say your friend called them? Stories from the Dark Farm.
Oh yeah, yep.
What's
Is that
that?
what it
Stories
was
from
called?
the Duncan Dark Farm.
Stories from the the Darkened Farm. Okay, I got it. That was a good one. Oh shit. All right, I think that's a good point to bring her to a close. Anybody have any final thoughts that they want to put in any closing statements?
Fuck the man.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, don't thank me for coming on because I've already sent
Thanks
you the
for
link
having me on the
your
pod.
laptop
This is
and your
great.
fucking microphone, and yours is gonna be started soon. God damn it, I'm gonna pester you every day until you start your own and tell your stories.
Okay, well.
But again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being open and willing to share your experience with us.
I really enjoyed hearing about you dying in the back of the ambulance.
It was so fucking scary, and no one gave a shit about it. They're all, nobody gave a shit.
They
Let's fucking go.
They knew what was going on. They just didn't tell me. I'm just, oh god.
You want to know what? Every time I start to have a panic attack, that's what's gonna go through my head, and I'm gonna calm the fuck down because I'm gonna hear you like, "Let's go!" That's
Positives here. Positives coming out.
That's gonna be in my head. I'm gonna be having a panic attack like I'm fucking dying. No, I'm not. Let's go!
Oh, fantastic. Lexi, anything?
No, I really want to highlight the fact that job burnout is extremely parallel with major depressive symptoms and reiterate the fact that like put your eggs in so many fucking baskets.
Second question to follow up on that one. Being as you are our regional expert here, our local expert, are there websites available to anybody that would be dealing with such things that they could go, or any sources you would recommend?
Oh God. No. So, in terms of like websites and stuff like that, I don't fucking know. But like what I really enjoy is like
My pen. I'm listening.
Instagram has a couple of like other therapists that I follow.
Okay.
And there's a few that are really, really good, and all they ever post is like insight and inspirational stuff. So it's like basically therapy on Instagram in like memes and pictures. So it's like free and it's therapy. So there's one that's called, there's a millennial therapist, and there's also the holistic psychologist. I think it's the holistic psychologist. And this like it's just Sarah's on Instagram already. But it's just like really helpful in terms of like gaining insight, because really like you can read all you want about burnout and it's nice to feel seen, but my biggest problem is always like how. Okay, like I understand what burnout is. I understand what depression is. I understand that I have a fucking problem. But like what the fuck do I do about that and how? You know what I mean? Like that's always, people are smart. They know what the fuck is going on. You know you're burned out, you know you're upset, you know all your eggs are in one basket. Like we know. But like what do you even do about that? And what you do about that is like change your life, correct your thinking patterns, put your eggs in different baskets. But like it's helpful to have someone like, here's how you do that. Right. You know what I mean? And so like those Instagram accounts for me at least are really helpful, because like that's
holistic psychiatrist,
holistic psychologist.
Yeah.
Followed. But so yeah, in terms of like what is burnout, I think we covered that. But like how you get out of that shit, like take care of yourself. Listen to our self-care podcast.
Episode 1.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
Sarah, what closing thoughts?
My only thing would be like going back to like you talking about like recognizing the major depressive disorder and all that, is just thinking about like when I was burnout, and going to the doctor and getting like allergy tests and like sleep tests and like all this stuff, and it's like, oh, they prescribed me like this stuff to help me stay awake, and they like, that's when I was taking like basically legal meth. That's the stuff that they give the Air Force pilots, the freaking, I don't even remember what it's
pirates?
called.
They're fucking pirates in there.
Arr, matey, I be staying awake.
I have my aligners in and it makes me talk.
Sure.
Listen, I mean, ask the aliens. They'll tell you that they're pirates. And I mean, thank you for helping us recognize these things, Lex. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. That was great.
I thought this was a great one. I love this. I love that we are coming together for these ones. I think they've turned out pretty well. I'm excited to see where this one is. If you have enjoyed this, if you enjoyed listening to us, we are available. The Siblings United podcast is available on iTunes and all the other major podcast players. We are also available on Instagram at The Siblings United. So give us a follow. Make sure you subscribe. We're also on YouTube. And then I got nothing more to say, except for I love you all.
Love you too.
Love you all.
Peace.
Love you.
Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.